Hi guys! Today we're going to be taking a look at these 100 colour dual tip brush pens. Let's get into it. So, you've seen these before, but I haven't actually used them yet because there's not been time. The packaging leaves a lot to be desired. Let's get that out the way first. These were gifted to me at either for my birthday or it was for my birthday, yeah. Sorry, this was for my birthday. And so I don't know, where they came from, or, if they're branded or whatever. I haven't used dual tips before. I've often thought maybe they're like a felt tip, like a Crayola super tip, basically. It says they're watercolor, so I thought I will get some of these out on the desk. I'll choose some colours and we will then fill in a portrait that I've been doing in my sketchbook. So I'm going to get some of the browns and then we'll get this packaging off the table so that we can actually see what we're doing. I'll end up putting everything back in the wrong order, I just know it. I've got some from that. I think the trouble is, you see, with pens, they have to be stored flat. You can't stick them up in a holder. They do have to go flat, so technically they do need to go in a drawer. And there's no way I've got space for this in a drawer. So I have to leave it in the packaging and leave them like flat on a shelf somewhere. Okay, so these are you can see here, they're like the pastels. Let's see if we can get this one out. Okay, so that's more pastel-y, yellowy greens. So we've got the blues above that, greenies, and then I'm hoping this bottom one, it's always the last one we get to, will be like oranges, like some primary colours. Oh, okay, and it's upside down, so good job I noticed that. And these are the reds, pinks and purples. Okay, so if I go for this one, again, packaging is quite terrible. But I do need a kind of orange. And I'll probably still do that. Do I want something for the lips, maybe? At that. Right, so for the moment, we'll get this out the way. Brilliant. And we will start with the brush tip. And I have a pot of water to the side. Now let's test, does this go on? Ah, it does. So I won't lose the cap. So this one will go on top of that. And let's see if this cap will go on top of this one. It doesn't really, I mean, you can't push it so it clicks. It will go on, but it's very loose. So it will tip out like that. Oh, maybe if I tip it upside down. No. No, both ends don't. So at least the big one will fit, but that doesn't. Let's see. Right, let's get into this. I'm just going to go do a few little marks. You can also, bear in mind, scribble on a surface like the table, or if you get one of those like wax non-stick sheets on your desk, you can scribble on that and then pick it up with a damp brush. You just want to wet your brush, you don't want it soaking, just damp, and just go onto the paint on the desk or whatever, and then just add. Right, so now what we're seeing here is, because this is not watercolor paper, it is not breaking up. I had a feeling it might not, which is why I scribbled some on the desk. So basically, this is like the highlights, thankfully. It didn't ruin the sketch totally. But I used my regular felt tips for the orange, and that's breaking down. But I noticed this is not breaking down. So that's interesting. So regular felt tips or fibre tip pens, like your Crayola Super Tips, are going to work at breaking down much easier. But these brush tips, they don't break down in this sketchbook anyway. So that's a learning curve. So what I'll do then is try and do as much as I can with just the colours directly and not blend them out with water. It's just that you end up getting through a lot of them. They'll run out very quick because they seep into the paper. A bit like alcohol markers, but not as bad. And obviously there's no smell to them because they're water-based. And technically, with brush tips, you're supposed to be able to get a seamless blend. But on this paper, as I say, it's a sketchbook paper. I think about 160 GSM. And I like a sketchbook that I can use many materials in and not just have to stick to pen and pencil. So my sketches can look a little bit awful because I will put a load of different things in there, even if they're not, the paper can't cope. So I'm now just going to soak the whole thing in water and see if the colours will break down. At least it's made them a little bit paler. Slightly disappointed with that regular kids' felt tips work at breaking down, but these don't. I'm just looking through my drawer a minute for other regular pens that I just dump in and around the place. For example, this is like the cheapest pen that you can get, the felt tip. I call them felt tips. You know, when you, I class the, any kid's pen, I class as a felt tip. That's what they were called in the United Kingdom. So if I just do this, this is going to break down. And it almost has disappeared. So obviously these brush tips go below the surface. They don't sit on the surface. Again, interesting. So I will now go in with the very fine tip of the brown And they are unmarked, basically, apart from it says Duel art marker. One end says brush, the other says pine. And we will finish off in a time lapse, I think. And we're finished. Just with these few pens. And yeah, I'm not that happy with how it came out, but I don't totally hate it. I think I would, they might come out better on other paper, but if I was comparing these pens to Crayola, those felt tip markers, I probably would go for the Crayolas. And would I personally buy these myself? No, I wouldn't. However, we have been able to build up, it's still wet at the minute, this paper, but I have been able, with water, to build up a kind of texture on the face to give it more of a 3D effect. And they did come out a little dry on here, a bit alcohol markery. If I turn over, thankfully, it didn't come through. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. It was definitely a fun experience experimenting. And I'll catch you guys really, really soon. Bye!